Welcome everybody to another episode of Fantasy News. I am your disheveled goblin host Daniel Green, and today we're going to go ahead and kick off this Fantasy News with a really exciting announcement here on the channel that we're going to have two of my all-time favorite fantasy authors on together to answer questions live from you all. That will be Brandon Sanderson and Joseph Abercrombie. Lord Grimdark and Banderdoot Boopadop are going to be here, yes, on the channel September 7th at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, live to answer whatever y'all have to ask. And don't worry, I will be fading into the background of this discussion as much as humanly possible. You hear me talk a lot. Let's let some goats talk. I'm gonna add in two goats. But from there, we're going to go ahead and kick on over to the standard Fantasy News intro because we've had a cover reveal from one of my favorite cover artists, Felix Ortiz. And that was for Michael Fletcher's Sin and Sorrow. Felix Ortiz always just knocks it out of the park with the covers. We know that here. But also, I like this one for having a two-headed winged beast. It immediately makes me ponder who decides which way they go. This is the third book in the City of Sacrifice series and will be released December 4th. But speaking of exciting series announcements, Dennis E. Taylor has taken to Twitter to announce he has finished the next Bobiverse book, and it looks like the title of it will be Not Till We Are Lost. I know cozy, like sci-fi fantasy, has had a huge resurgence recently, and if you're looking for a sci-fi series that kind of fits that cozy vibe, I wouldn't say comfy cozy is the foremost feeling from the Bobiverse, but it is certainly a strong undercurrent. It's hard to be cozy in the cold depths of space, but there's a wholesomeness to it all that I think will draw a similar audience. It's a great series. I highly recommend it. Next up, we have I almost just said we have a Disney involving a headline. Next up, we have a headline involving Disney, with it reading, "Investors sue Disney over alleged Chapek-era cost-shifting scheme to hide streaming losses." And I'm not smart enough to get into all the nuances here, but this is just continually playing into the theme of the streaming era of entertainment, the mediums of which we are receiving so much of the sci-fi fantasy we consume. That's the justification I'm using for talking about this thing that interests me. That there's so much shifting going on in entertainment and how we as consumers consume that even the biggest players in the field are making gargantuan errors and having to cover their ass and getting caught. I mean, we've seen Netflix have severe downs and ups recently, and other streaming services invest massive amounts of money in shows that they end up never even airing and making a tax write-off because that's better for them. Right now, and maybe even like the decade before and after, are going to be looked back on in like entertainment history as one of the most just wild times since like home televisions. We're truly in one of the most transformative eras for entertainment, and it's just fun as a consumer, maybe get a little bit of Schadenfreude as well, to see certain big companies blunder in historic ways. Now, unfortunately, we have also gotten an update from Sanderson about the potential Cosmere adaptations we spoke on previously here in Fantasy News possibly having hit a severe speed bump, with a post on Reddit reading, "As I indicated 2 months ago in the comments linked to this thread, don't hold your breath. I think we're completely stalled at this point, folks, not just because of the strikes. They're a relatively small issue in regards to what we're trying to do. We got really close in some ways I'll be able to talk about eventually, but I don't see any kind of film/TV announcement coming this year. Hollywood is scared. Even Mission Impossible is underperforming, and Rings of Power did far beneath what they wanted. I think at this point, I might have to try some smaller forays into Hollywood to build a reputation before I can get the kind of adaptation I want. We'll see. There still are a few possibilities in the works that could turn this around. If it does happen, it won't be for an announcement this year." I, just as much as you, of course, feel the of hearing that from Sanderson, but of course, in no way, shape, or form is his fault. And as we just spoke on, yeah, it's a wild time in terms of what get greenlit in entertainment. And right now, it does seem like we're seeing quite a bit of backpedaling across the board for larger projects. I think that's why some One Piece fans were really afraid that we might not even get a season 2, even if this first season did well. I still think Sanderson even could be surprised because there is just such a strong community vibe for his works right now that someone in Hollywood with a lot of power could take note and decide to go all in. But that is a reach, and that's what I'm able to bring you now. And that's all I got. I'm so sorry. But coming back in with a positive return of a sci-fi franchise, Denis Villeneuve has begun to give us a little teasing. You fill in the gaps of what this is supposed to be for teasing. In regards to making a film based on Dune Messiah, Denis Villeneuve said, "There are words on paper. If I succeed in making a trilogy, that would be a dream." He went on to say, "Dune Messiah was written in reaction to the fact that people perceive Paul Atreides as a hero, which is not what he wanted to do. My adaptation is closer to his idea that it's actually a warning. After that, the books become more esoteric." And Denis Villeneuve is once again displaying his definite understanding of the source material. No, Paul Atreides, not a good guy. He is, I think a warning is a really good way to phrase it. Though, Denis Villeneuve, I will say, yes, the books after Dune Messiah are weirder. I maintain they may be even better. I like the Dune sequels up until a point. Fight me about it. And just the most pleasant of reminders that if you want to actually see me cover a story here in Fantasy News, all you must do's is join the Discord server, find the Fantasy News channel, and post any recent news there, and I'll consider it. But from here, I'm going to transition into a little bit of selfish news because a composer here on YouTube made 2 tracks for my book, Breach of Peace, both of which are so cool. It's the first time anyone's adapted my books into like anything. So if you would like to check out 2 songs, 2 compositions, let me give you the credit you're deserving, for my first 2 books, links down below. Thank you so much, Isaac. I still smile about this every time I put on these songs, which I do when I write. That transitions nicely for me saying, hey, if you'd like to check out my new book, Neon Ghosts, it's right there, but you can't have that one, but you can go to the link in the description and get a digital one or late back the Kickstarter through BackerKit. Either way works fine. And finally, we have the self-promo from books written within the Goblin Horde. That's right, some of you little stinkers are pretty good authors, and we're gonna go ahead and give you a little bit of spotlight starting right now. And for this week's self-promo, we have 2 spectacular books coming down. The first being The Bleeding Stone by Joseph John Lee. The island nation of Ferenda is the jewel of the Arcarian kingdom, and its founder, Aritz Amata, is revered as a god amongst men. But 25 years ago, Aritz was merely a man, a colonizer, an invader seeking glory and fame in the name of his king and queen. And Ferenda was a nameless union of indigenous tribes, reverent of the heightened powers and aptitudes granted them by their animal deities, but surrounded by the foreigners claiming their lands to the south. In the unconquered north, the Stone tribe has for 15 years offered a safe haven for the southern tribes displaced by the Aritz invaders, whose occupying march north has been ostensibly halted by a dense forest barrier dividing north and south. Among the Stone people lives Sen, an outcast for the circumstances of her birth, preserved in society only by her status as daughter of her tribe's chief, forever relegated to the fringes of society. She is forced to watch as countless of her kin, including her sister and brother, complete their rites of passage into adulthood and accordingly earn their aptitudes by the deity to whom they share an affinity, the bear, the wolf, or the owl. Despite this, Sin finds comfort in her life of forced solitude with her close inner circle, but hers is a comfort in days of waning, tenuous peace. When Arit's technologically advanced forces push north, Sin is thrust into a singular quest to rescue one of her precious few captured in the ensuing struggle. While her goal is earnest, save someone dear to her and prove her worth to her tribe, her people's goal is far more dire: survive in the face of uncertainty. And the second novel we'll be talking about today is A Necromancer called Gam Gam by Adam Holcombe, a grandmotherly necromancer seeking resolution from her past with the help of her loyal entourage, an undead cat and a spectral knight. A girl on the run from the Eternal Empire for the mysterious power she possesses. When a chance encounter pulls them together, Gam Gam will do what it takes to protect Mina from the rogue sergeant hounding her, including raising the dead, as long as they're dressed for the occasion. But this has just been your latest episode episode of Fantasy News. Sorry it was a bit lighter. Today I got up at 2:50 a.m. to watch episodes of One Piece and put out a review that you can check out here if you'd like. So I'm having to keep it a bit lighter so that I don't go insane. If you missed any fantasy news from last week, you can go ahead and check it out right there, and like and subscribe if you have not already. The new vlog is on the Patreon, and have a good one, y'all. Peace.